I am going to speak to you today about strategies of the inner child. I will talk about three of them, but there are many, many more. But the explanation of these will give you a sense of how you live was created by the patterns that the child parts created to help them to help you survive. That's the intent of these child part, the inner child. They want your survival. But because they were created so young, they have limited information. Yet they're committed to your survival and won't let you change the script because survival at all costs. If you change to thrive, to try to create new mindsets, new behaviors, and so forth, they fight against it. And so any sense of resistance that you feel, it comes from the inner child. So the three strategies that I want to describe today are one, people pleasing, two, perfectionism, three, self reliance. There are a handful more that I could describe, but for today, let me talk about people pleasing. You may not realize that a lot of your behavior and your responses are governed by the thought, the greater thought, I can't displease anyone. I need their approval because unless I have this, I won't get what I need. Consciously, it may be approval, a promotion, recognition, love, affection, care in a relationship. So, this people pleasing is like a way of being in life. Have you ever noticed that you're rarely impolite, rude, speak out of turn, or express an opinion boldly? In fact, you might cringe if anybody else does that because it violates this rule that you have that you need to do everything to please people. One way that I found that I adopted this pattern early on is I have always recognized what everyone else's needs are. I can even um, predict what their needs are and meet them before they can even express it or know it. That's because I have attuned myself to please people in this respect. Another way you please people in general, in your classroom, in your society, in your workplace, is following the rules that govern the workplace. So if there's a particular culture or ethic, you follow that, even if intellectually you accept the idea that if you looked at it, you don't agree. For example, you see others stepping on their competitors to get ahead. They get ahead at all cost. This competition mentality that is in our society. If you were to adopt that, it's because you were taught that that is a way for success, not necessarily that you believe in any of that. That's how pervasive a particular pattern can be. In addition, another pattern is perfectionism. You may not know or think that you are a perfectionist, but do you notice that you need to get things right? You can't make mistakes. You have to keep trying and trying as long as there is time and opportunity to do better, whether it is better in terms of a person or better in terms of what you produce. So in the workplace, especially, you would be attuned to the work not only that you produce, but what others produce. And they need to be perfect. So you push and push. There's a pressure that you have not to let go until there's no more time or opportunity. And then, rather than being pleased by what you produce, you can criticize it. That's a mechanism of the perfectionism, this critic in your brain that is always on the alert of about what is wrong. So this is another sign of how the perfectionist lives in you. And the sad things, it never rests. The negative critic in you never rests to criticize everyone around you and criticize yourself most of all. And this criticism has the effect of keeping you down, keeping your confidence low. So you buy into the belief that you're not good enough, which we discussed in the last video. So perfectionism becomes a way of never being satisfied with what you produce. A third is self-reliance. Early in childhood, when you were hurt, when your needs weren't respected, there was no one there. No one there to help you as far as you could see. So the child decided you had to align yourself. And it therefore took on that role of being in charge very early on. So you never ask for help. Do you ask for help? Can you see yourself asking for help? Or once on a task, you just doggedly move on and do it all as much as you can. And if someone said, "Can I lend you a hand?" you'll say, "No, I can do this myself." It's a very strong, persistent need almost to do it yourself, because the child part has to prove that they can handle everything. Because if they don't handle everything, there's no one else to take it up. Because the injury was the parent wasn't there when he or she was needed. So the child decided, I'm left with this responsibility. So these are three ways in which the inner child can create strategies. They're coping strategies to survive. You cannot use these strategies if you want to achieve something more than survival, thriving, going for your dreams, using your gifts to create something of service to the world. Rather, you find yourself procrastinating because the task sometimes seems overwhelming. There is the fear that you can't do it. Then there are times when you not only procrastinate, you don't speak up for recognition. Speaking up in a group meeting, exposing yourself, because you make yourself vulnerable. You can't do it perfectly. You won't gain their approval. So because these coping strategies of perfectionism and approval is so important. You don't say what it is that you want, voicing a solution that may be needed by others. So, in various ways, these patterns and others like them are survival and coping strategies. They are not patterns. In fact, any pattern is a disadvantage because it sets up rules and a way of being that confines your spontaneity and your connection to a greater wisdom. And your greater wisdom and spontaneity is about life. And that is why we do the inner child work, to get to a place where you are freed from the burdens and pains of the past, to create in the present and the future new things, not copying anyone, going into the realm of imagination and creating your own project, artwork, music, painting, whatever comes to mind. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to do the inner child work. And the most important way of resolving, healing the inner child is the subconscious, which is something I will address shortly. Write comments and check out my other resources.